The Vikings were a group of seafaring people from Scandinavia, which is located in the northern part of Europe. The Viking Age is generally considered to have begun in the late 8th century and ended in the mid-11th century. During this period, the Vikings carried out extensive raids, trade, and exploration in Europe, Asia, and North America. The origins of the Vikings are somewhat unclear, but it is believed that they originated in what is now Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. They were farmers, hunters, and traders who lived in small, tight-knit communities. However, as their population grew and resources became scarce, many Vikings turned to the sea for survival. Viking ships were a key element of their success. They were fast, maneuverable, and could navigate in shallow waters, making them ideal for raiding and exploration. The Vikings also developed a reputation for being fierce warriors, with their raids often accompanied by violence and destruction. The Viking raids began in the late 8th century and initially targeted monasteries and other religious sites along the coasts of England, Scotland, and Ireland. The Vikings plundered these sites for their wealth, but also took captives, who they could sell as slaves. As the Vikings became more successful, their raids became more ambitious. They began to target larger towns and cities, such as Paris, and even established settlements in places like Dublin, York, and Kiev. In some cases, the Vikings integrated into the local communities, intermarrying with the local people and adopting their customs. At the same time, the Vikings were also engaging in trade and exploration. They traveled as far east as present-day Russia and as far west as North America. They established trade routes and settlements in places like Iceland and Greenland, and even reached the Middle East and Africa through their extensive trading network. Despite their successes, the Viking Age eventually came to an end. In the mid-11th century, the Christianization of Scandinavia and the establishment of strong centralized states brought an end to the Viking way of life. Many Vikings converted to Christianity, and others settled into more peaceful pursuits such as farming and trading. Today, the Vikings are remembered for their achievements in exploration, trade, and warfare, as well as their influence on the culture of Europe and beyond. The Vikings have left a lasting legacy on language, art, and mythology, with many English words and phrases, such as berserk and Thor, deriving from Old Norse, the language spoken by the Vikings. Food was a crucial aspect of Viking life, and their diet was based on what was available in their environment. They ate a lot of fish, particularly herring and cod, and also consumed meat from domesticated animals such as cows, pigs, and sheep. Wild game like deer and elk were also hunted for their meat. Vikings grew crops such as barley, oats, and rye, and used the grain to make bread, porridge, and beer. Dairy products such as cheese and butter were also part of their diet. Viking clothing was designed to keep them warm and dry in the cold, wet climate. Men and women both wore tunics, which were usually made of wool and belted at the waist. They also wore trousers and leggings, and in colder weather, they added a woolen cloak or coat. Shoes were made of leather, and in some cases, had fur lining for extra warmth. Viking society was divided into classes, with the chieftains and their families at the top, followed by the free farmers and craftsmen, and then the thralls or slaves. The chieftains lived in large, fortified houses with their families and retinue, while the free farmers lived in smaller houses with their families and animals. Slaves performed the manual labor, such as farming and building, and were often captured during Viking raids. Viking society was also deeply rooted in mythology and religion, with gods and goddesses such as Odin, Thor, and Freya playing important roles in their daily life. They believed in an afterlife and had a rich tradition of burial practices, including the use of burial mounds and ship burials. The Vikings had a rich and diverse artistic and mythological culture, which was influenced by their beliefs, traditions, and interactions with other cultures. Viking art and mythology were closely intertwined, with many artistic works depicting mythological scenes and figures. Viking art is known for its intricate and stylized designs, which were often created using a variety of materials, including wood, metal, and stone. Viking art motifs included geometric shapes, animal figures, and mythological scenes, which were often combined in complex designs. Viking art was used to decorate a variety of objects, including jewelry, weapons, tools, and household items. Viking mythology was a complex system of beliefs and stories that were used to explain the world and the Vikings' place in it. Viking mythology included a wide variety of gods and goddesses, including Odin, Thor, and Freya, who were believed to have control over different aspects of life. The Vikings also believed in a variety of other beings, such as giants, dwarves, and elves, who played important roles in their mythology. One of the most important aspects of Viking mythology was the concept of Valhalla, which was the afterlife reserved for warriors who died in battle. Vikings believed that those who died in battle would be taken to Valhalla by the Valkyries, where they would enjoy a life of feasting and fighting alongside the gods until the end of the world. Viking art and mythology were also intertwined in the form of rune stones, which were large stones inscribed with runes that were used to commemorate important events or individuals. Many rune stones depicted mythological scenes or figures, and were intended to serve as a link between the world of the living and the world of the dead. The Viking Age came to an end with the gradual Christianization of Scandinavia and the unification of the region under centralized monarchies. As Christianity spread throughout Scandinavia, many traditional Viking beliefs and practices were abandoned, including the worship of Norse gods and the practice of raiding. Additionally, the consolidation of power under centralized monarchies reduced the power and influence of the independent chieftains and warrior aristocracy that had characterized Viking society. While the end of the Viking Age marked the decline of Viking culture as it was traditionally known, the impact of the Vikings on European history was profound and lasting. The Vikings' maritime prowess and exploration helped to shape the political and cultural landscape of Europe, and their impact can still be seen today in many aspects of modern culture. The legacy of the Vikings is extensive, complex, and multifaceted. While the Vikings' impact on Europe is often associated with their reputation as raiders and warriors, their influence on the cultural, political, and economic development of the region was far-reaching and enduring. In this essay, we will explore some of the ways in which the Vikings have shaped the world we live in today. One of the most significant aspects of the Vikings' legacy is their impact on European language and literature. The Vikings' mastery of language and their widespread travels throughout Europe contributed to the spread and evolution of many European languages, including English. Many common English words and phrases, such as berserk and to take a Viking approach, have their roots in the Viking language and culture. Additionally, Viking literature, such as the sagas and the Eddas, have had a lasting impact on European literature and storytelling, influencing everything from medieval romance to contemporary fantasy. The Vikings' impact on European art and design is also significant. Viking art was characterized by intricate designs and the use of a variety of materials, including metalwork, woodwork, and stone. These design motifs, which often included mythological creatures and stories, continue to inspire contemporary art and design, particularly in the fields of jewelry, fashion, and architecture. The Vikings also played an important role in the development of seafaring technology, including the design of longships, which were fast and maneuverable vessels that allowed them to travel long distances and explore new territories. Another significant aspect of the Vikings' legacy is their impact on European political and economic development. The Vikings' widespread trade and exploration helped to establish economic networks and trade routes that connected Europe to the wider world. Viking trading communities, such as those in Dublin and York, became important economic and cultural centers that facilitated the exchange of goods and ideas. Additionally, the Vikings' influence on European politics was significant, with many Viking leaders and warriors becoming key figures in the political and military struggles of the time. The Vikings' influence on European religion is also worth noting. The Vikings' traditional religion, which was centered on the worship of Norse gods and goddesses, had a significant impact on the religious beliefs and practices of many European cultures. The Vikings' myths and legends, which were passed down through generations of oral tradition, continue to inspire and influence contemporary religious and spiritual practices. Finally, the Vikings' impact on European history and identity is significant. The Vikings' reputation as fierce warriors and adventurers has contributed to their enduring cultural and historical significance. Today, Viking culture and heritage continue to be celebrated and explored through a wide range of activities.